Thank you, Marianne. Now, she gave my entire speech, so all I have to do now is put some bones to it. So, first of all, let me welcome all of you. I know so many of you in the room, which actually testifies. This September will be my 52nd year in education, and I'm very proud of the fact. And I had a very busy summer, and I'm excited because we seem to be working nonstop, including on weekends. But let me start by saying that everything Marianne said is true, but more importantly, the message I hope that all of you leave with today is that doing things the way we did it before is going to give us the same results that we had before. And what we're all here today, I think, is to talk about how do we get different results. How do we make sure that all students have equity in their lives? That no matter what zip code in New York City you live in or what kind of school you go to, that you have the possibility of having options. Not everyone's going to go to college, but they need to get a good wage-paying job. And that's why we have the multiple pathways, which I will talk about. But I think it's really, really important that we go into our classrooms with the expectation that no child is limited. So let me just tell you a little bit, because I will do the anecdotes, as Marianne already gave you the framework. This summer, I visited a lot of our summer school sites. And let me tell you what you would see this summer in New York City that you never would have seen before. We had over 4,000 second graders in summer school, non-mandated. These were students that the schools and the parents agreed would come to school from 8:30 to 2:30 and be part of something called Summer Lit Camp with fireplaces. We had fake fireplaces. And the kids learned how to sing camp songs. You know, there's a long time out there when this community building that we used to have, you know, all of you, if you went to school at a certain era, knew certain songs, and everybody knew the same songs. Do you remember that? Camp songs? Well, we did that throughout all of New York City. We had physical activities. And then we had the reading of books, where every single second grade in the city of New York was reading the same books, and all the books had a multicultural aspect to it. And I was in one classroom where they were reading The Red Lollipop, which is about an Indian family that comes to New York and how they react to having a birthday party invitation. We sometimes understand that we need to acclimate kids, but we also sometimes forget that we also need to celebrate the differences that kids bring to school. So what we did in second grade, and by the way, I went to one of the classes because they told me they were in camp and they were doing all this, and it was the longest summer program we've ever had. And after it was 8:30 to 2:30, from 2:30 to 5:30, we had a wraparound service with the CBO. And that, to me, is the kind of summer program for second graders to make the difference, because we can't talk about reading scores in third grade without understanding that it's the pre-K 3-year-olds now to second grade that's going to make that happen. And I think that's very, very important. But I asked one of the classes if they knew what s'mores were. Not one person in the class knew what s'mores were. Someone here mentioned 220. I think it was at 220 in Queens that I did this. So I sent them a package of all the things they need to make s'mores. Because summer schooling should be fun. It should be different. And it should really make you want to go there in the morning. So we took away the way mandated, and we didn't say anyone. And we also took away the curriculum where the L kids went to this classroom, special needs kids went to this classroom regularly. All these kids were put together in one classroom. And that, to me, is what the beauty of equity is also. It's not just about racial and about ethnicity. It's about how all kids can learn if they really learn together. And this, to me, was the beauty of the summer program. The results will be over time, but this is summer STEM. That was in the elementary school. So all these second graders around the city learning together. We also then had STEM programs, and I went to several of them also to visit. And I sat in one class where the fifth grader is explaining to me, and I should qualify this, trying to explain to me something called Minecraft. And I sat next to him, and he's explaining, and he said, and this is what I have to try to get this here. And, you know, he could see that I was kind of glazing over. And he said, Chancellor, you may be too old to learn this. And you know what? He's probably right. But in the classroom with me were all the parents who were invited to summer school, along with their kids, to see what STEM looked like. You had kids doing coding in second grade. You had kids doing robotics. Then I went to a middle school where they had a very rich arts program. I went to Lincoln Center Arts Boot Camp, 250 students, all free lunch, to Lincoln Center for 3 weeks intensive training in their art specialty, learning how to do auditions. And this is, to me, kids from all over the city. We even had a few from Staten Island. Every time I have a few from Staten Island, I know we're doing something good. So to me, summer was a time of learning. We had also close to 6,000 teachers in professional development. If there's one thing I'm really, really proud of since having become chancellor, and many of you, thank you because you've been helping me in this effort, we have enhanced our professional development for teachers like 100-fold. And we give teachers a lot of opportunities. You can't ask teachers to do something if you don't give them the wherewithal to get it done. So by giving them the materials they need, by giving them the training they need, and also by honoring the work that they do. For too long, teaching was not a profession that was celebrated. Everything that was wrong with life was blamed on the educators. I think anything that's good in life is because of an educator. And we need to keep emphasizing over and over again. So as we come to the beginning of the school year, I love September, always my favorite time of year. I always say never sleep before the first day of school, and I think that's good, because if you sleep, then you're assuming everything's going to go well, and you should always be in this job assuming that it's not. So you're ready to jump in the minute something has to be done. But we are coming forth with 4 major initiatives, or 4 major priorities. And I know many of you want to know that ahead of time, so you're the first audience we're announcing it to. First priority, excellent instruction in every classroom, great schools in every neighborhood. This seems like a no-brainer, but for too many years, reformers start thinking about public education as how do we change the structure? How do we do this or that? To me, what is the most important thing in education is what happens in the classroom. What you use to teach, how you differentiate instruction, how you prepare the best teachers, the best principals. This, to me, is the crucial, important part of education. There is nothing more important. So what have we done to make sure that that works? First and foremost, 3-year-olds. I am dying to go visit a 3-year-old program. We have 2 districts in the city, District 7 and District 23, 2 of the highest poverty districts in the city, which is why they were chosen, who are now going to have 3-year-olds, and we have a wait list that's unbelievable. And the other thing about 3-year-olds is that there'll be 15 children in a class, because in 4-year-olds there's 18 kids in a class, so you'll see we're trying. But also in terms of materials, it's going to be very different what we do with 3-year-olds than what we even do with 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds. And our goal is to do 2 more 3-year-old groups every year until we get to most of the city. Space will be a challenge, but we're working on that. And we're also working with CBOs, and I think that's an important part, because we can't do it all. But what happens is that even with a CBO, or I should say, especially the training of the teachers in those programs is equal to our teachers. We bring everyone together, and all the teachers are being retrained. If you're teaching 4-year-olds, you're going to be retrained, because if you were applying from a 2nd grade to a 4-year-old program, not the same stuff at all. So how do we do the retraining? And I think our universities were being partners with us in this, because a lot of the training also took place over the summer. So how you work with a 3-year-old is going to be very, very important. Obviously, all the other initiatives, I won't even mention specifically that Mary Ann mentioned, but I want to just kind of tell you a little bit about what some of these look like. We have put literacy coaches in 14 districts in the city of New York. Literacy coaches are what I call teacher whisperers. One of the things that I'm a little concerned about is too many teachers are coming into the teaching without having learned how to teach reading. I know this is going to surprise many of you, but there's a lot of skills that teachers come into the classroom, then we need to reteach. So any of you in that field, keep thinking, how do we teach not only reading strategies, but intervention strategies? So this summer, and there was a very extensive interview process, application process. This was not done, and again, I thank the unions, but it's based on seniority. It was based, who was the best qualified person to be a literacy coach? And they had to be willing to leave their schools and their districts. So they applied, and they knew not where they would be sent to. They could put priorities, but that was really, they're going to go where the greatest need. So this summer, I went to visit 3-week intensive training that was under Dr. Esther Friedman, and any of you who know Esther Friedman, doesn't come better than that. And when I went to visit, they were like on a high. They were like on a sorority mode. And what I call them the teacher whisperers, because their job is not to work with groups of kids, it's to work with the teachers in the classroom. They work with every teacher from kindergarten to 2nd grade. They have to work with all students, whether they're L's or special ed. And then they develop workshops for those teachers. But there is to do strategy. I went to visit one of the classrooms, and First day on the job, the literacy coach is doing this lesson. The teacher's doing the lesson, and I see the literacy coach whispering in her ear. That's why I call them teacher whisperers. And the teacher, you could tell, is like dying. Literally, first of all, I'm standing in the room, but she's dying. She asked the kids a question, and the kids are not answering her. It's a mostly English language learner classroom, and the kids are not. She asked the question again. Kids are not answering her. Finally, the teacher says, ask them to ask each other. So the kids turn and talk, my favorite expression. They ask each other, and all of a sudden, one of the kids looks like he's ready to do it. So the teacher whisperer says to her, always pause. Teachers talk too much and listen too little. Put that as a quote somewhere. Because the reality is kids know a lot more than we give them credit for, but we're always in a hurry to get the answers. That teacher said to me, I knew that, but I never practiced it, and now I'll practice it every day. That, to me, is the urgency of having these literacy coaches. These literacy coaches will also do workshops for parents on how to help their child. Literacy coaches will also do Monday, we have 80 minutes Monday PD in all our schools in New York City by contract, and they will also do PD, and they will also do occasionally upper grades, but they're exclusively the pre-K to second grade, and that's universally, and now it's over 200 schools that are going to have these literacy coaches. So this is really a big step in the right direction. College access for all sounds very simple, but it's really actually something I wish I had many years ago. A lot of what I do, and I'm sure a lot of what you do, is based on what was good or bad in your own life. And for me, a lot of the things I wish I had been exposed to is what I'm trying to give other kids. College, a lot of our universities, and CUNY has been a big partner with us on this, but a lot of the private universities opened their campuses for seventh graders. Seventh grade is crucial to me. If you have a seventh grader in your life, God bless you, because they are the most difficult, but when they like something, it's the biggest blessing you can get, because they are totally judgmental. And if they say they like something, then you really got it going. I love seventh graders. So we invited them to college campuses. I joined one of the groups at John Jay College. And it was a school from the Bronx. None of them had ever been inside a college door before, ever. How can you aspire to go somewhere if you don't know what that somewhere is? They had taken a tour of the building, and then I met with them and I said, well, what surprised you? Well, you won't be surprised to hear. They loved the cafeteria. We didn't know you could choose your own food if you go to school. They loved the gym. They loved all the clubs they could belong to. They were very taken by the type of clubs. There was a Palestinian club. There was a chess club. These are the choices that kids often don't have in their own schools, and here they had them at the college. And then one student said, what I was really surprised by, that nobody looked up when we went into their classrooms, because they visited classrooms. College must be a serious place. Now, isn't it better to have them see it than to tell them that that's why you have to go there? So this, to me, was a real mind-blowing experience. Then I went on another college visit to Brooklyn College. And on this visit, these were kids from Bushwick in Brooklyn, and they came with their parents. And they came with about 10 mothers, one grandmother. And as I started talking to the adults, they all said to me they had never been on a college campus, and the trepidations they have about sending their kids away to college. They can't be that away from home. They felt they wouldn't be safe. They felt they wouldn't be welcomed. And as we toured the campus itself, they had no idea you can sit on the, well, I don't think you can sit on the grass, but you can sit near the grass there. And as we took them to the library and other places, the parents said, wow, this is really special. And of the parents, I think maybe one spoke English, most of them did not. And to me, it was really important to remember that many of our parents are not the ones, some of you, from the day your child is born, you buy them the Yale t-shirt, like the onesie. These parents don't have these aspirations for their kids because they don't know what that aspiration is. So we need to do more work with the parents to also lessen their fear of sending their kids away to school. I do a lot of speeches in Spanish-speaking communities and say to them, you should want them away from home. You should want them to write you letters, make phone calls, because that's how they're going to grow as adults. But unless these parents also experience these college access, we're only going to be halfway there. Last year, I read a statistic, the Spanish Federation actually told me this, that many of our scholarship for Hispanic kids go unsought and not given out because not enough kids applying for going away to college, so last year we started a major initiative in the city under Yolanda Torres to talk to more parents about what college was and could be. So to me, the college access for all is really important. I think also we've expanded our community schools, and community schools are programs that we do with CBOs after school, but also bring mental health clinics into our schools. And if you haven't watched TV, and I basically try not to in the last couple of weeks, but I'm just saying that many of our issues, if you're going to treat the whole child means the social, emotional learning as well as the academic. And if we continue to ignore the fact that many of our families come to school with health issues of all kinds, but mental health, physical health, everything, we can say, well, that's not our job, or we can say, you know what, this is part of our job. So we've chosen to say this is part of our job, and increasing our community schools that also have a connection with academics, to me, is a no-brainer and something we want to do more and more of. We're expanding our career and technology programs, our CTE programs, with 40 new programs. You know, I think in this country, well, I'll just speak about what I know. In New York City, when we talk about aspirational goals, we talk about lawyers, doctors, nobody talks about teaching. I'm trying to change that. But we forget that the infrastructure of the city is carpenters, plumbers, masons, and having CTE programs that give kids these options are also crucial. Having come as a daughter of immigrants, but also my father was a master carpenter, my uncle an electrician, my father-in-law a plumber, they made very good livings. But so why are we not celebrating these kinds of jobs? And CTE does that, and we're starting more programs with multiple pathways. That doesn't mean you don't go to college, but you have other options. I went to see a CTE program this last week where the students explained to me they were learning engineering principles, and all of them plan on going to work for a while and then going to college at night. That was what I did. I had 3 masters, and every one of them was done at night. So why not talk about all those options, but also about how they can add life and money in their pockets in ways I met. One of the kids spoke beautifully, and he said, what I hope to do is become a chief mechanical engineer, not for one school, but for the whole system. He's aiming big. And believe me, the way he presented himself, he could easily have done it. I think it's really important that we say all of you can have the best paying job possible without defining what that job may look like. So the jobs that we have today are not the job these kids are going to have 10 years from now. In fact, jobs change, particularly in the computer field, minute by minute. So we need to prepare kids, and I heard a phenomenal presentation recently, to be curious, to be interactive learners. Giving them facts is only going to teach them to regurgitate facts. Silent classrooms are poor classrooms. Classrooms where kids get a problem and have to solve it, that's the way it should be. And that should be right through college and beyond. How you give kids something to solve and be curious about it, to me, is important. It's also why we've expanded something called Teen Thursdays. We have a collaboration with over 40 cultural institutions where we send 7th graders, all my new projects start with 7th graders, to cultural institutions for a period of 5 weeks on Thursdays after school, to be totally immersed in one particular part of the museum and really become very cognizant of how the Bronx Zoo, Museum of the City of New York, can add to your knowledge. It doesn't all come out of books. The second priority is support the whole child, partner with families and communities. One of the things that we experimented with this summer that was so productive that I really want to expand it and will be part of my keynotes that goes out in 2 weeks. We had something, Family L Institute, English Language Learner Institute. And we invited parents, grandparents, whoever wanted, to come to school with their children and to be there for the whole time. And we did this in several schools around the city, and it was beyond phenomenal. And one of the anecdotes was actually precious, because again, statistics give you some information, but it's the personal stories that give you the blood of what's really happening. And I got an email from a stepmother who actually married her husband, I guess more through family connections, came from India here. And she said, I didn't know this stepdaughter really well, but she invited me to go to summer school with her. And since I don't speak English, I went with her. And as a result, we are now really one family. I had another one, a grandmother, who said she was always embarrassed to learn English. There was no one program that suited her. She didn't know where to go. So what she did, she went to summer school with her granddaughter. And she said to me, I'm now learning English. An Asian family, and she said, I'm having somebody write this to you. So the anecdotes show, why not? I mean, we have to stop thinking these are the laws, the regulations. So I said to principals, if you want to have parents come in, do 1 hour of literacy. For those of you who are vendors, think what this might mean to you. 1 hour per day during literacy period to sit in the back of the class, or right alongside your child in the classroom. How much better as a parent can you be if you've learned how to teach your child? So to me, this is something we're going to be really pushing this year. We're going to have the schools that already did it. One principal said to me, I'll never give this program up. I've seen parents during the summer that I never see during the school year. So that's one of our other initiatives. I think also we've increased translation services, and now they're on the phone, parents go 24/7, and my office tells me we actually get more phone calls from parents after 5 o'clock than we do during the day, which makes sense. People work. We can't say these are our working hours. Our working hours have to be whenever people need us. And how we change the structure of what we do as a service provider, because education is a service provider, to me is crucial. I've also reinstituted the dialogue between all our CEC presidents. I notice a few of you in the room. I meet with the CEC presidents, and we change we don't meet during the week. We meet on Saturdays for about 3 hours. We've given CEC presidents, these are the heads of every district in the city, and we've given them committees to work on and recommendations to make to us. The same thing, we do that with CPAC. And this is really important because for too long, we go to parents when we need their help, but we don't make them part and parcel of the work that we're doing. And to me, it's crucial. Who better to advocate for their kids than parents? That doesn't mean we always agree, but the dialogue starts with us. And the Saturdays have become one of my favorite Saturdays of the month. And we do this on a regular. I also meet with all the CPAC presidents, and I'm very proud of. I have a lot of plaques, but this one I'm very proud of. I got 100% attendance at their meetings, so I'm always feeling guilty if I have to miss one because I don't want them to take my plaque away. I think also the work that we do, particularly with our city council and now with our elected officials in Albany, based on something that was said to me a couple of months ago, we now started having around the city meetings. There's one today right now in Queens with all the Albany elected officials, with all our superintendents, and so they can all talk about what they want. And they also have names of people they can call. Partially is to help me so that everybody doesn't call me directly, but this is how we have the dialogue. Because in this day and age, to be very honest with you, we need to have us together because we need to make sure people don't split us up. I think also, in terms of the whole child, we need to give people the right curriculum. So one of the things that we have invested a lot of money into is a social studies curriculum that's K-8. For those of you who don't know it, it's called Passport. We have 92% of schools in New York City. Now, anyone who knows statistics in New York City, 92% is almost off the chart. Schools are using this. And this is a social studies curriculum that conforms to Common Stand, but also has a very strong strand on civic engagement. If we're going to have a democracy that's worth talking about years from now, our students need to know what government is here for, what their role in government action is, even in kindergarten, and how they, even as they go to high school, have to do even more of this. Last year we did a major registration vote getting, 8,000 high school kids registered to vote, and that's part of our Passport curriculum, but it has 2 years of American history, and it comes with a tremendous amount of PD for teachers, but also materials for the classroom. Priority number 3 is more collaboration with anyone and everyone. And that to me is very, very important. I have spent a lot of time, certainly this last year, I talk to anyone who wants to hear what I have to say, but also bring something to the table. And to me, to make sure principals have what they need and teachers have what they need, it's about building morale. And the best way to do is to go out and talk directly to people. I have met every principal in New York City in the last year, have spoken at least once to every superintendency and the principals. I meet with superintendents once a month, and we have a Q&A, as well as when I also met with all the first-year teachers who are going to start in September. I did Teach for America. Where are you, Clarissa? Right? There you are. I think teachers are underrated, undervalued, and under-inspired. And if we don't do something to get more people to come into the teaching profession, we're sunk. And to me, one of the major initiatives for this year is going to be building future teachers clubs. I have asked every high school to take the best, not the ones that you don't think can get to be any other job, and start working with them and making them mentors for younger kids, or sending them to the middle schools to work with the middle school kids. We need middle school kids to go and work with the elementary school kids. I share this with the CECs, and some of you are already taking me on this. If we make teaching exciting, which it is, if you've ever mentored anyone, it gets in your blood. I have my oldest grandson is 13. He's not a big fan of school. It breaks my heart. But the one day he gets excited about going to school, he's got a buddy. He's got a buddy, I think, in 5th grade. When I go talk to my buddy, he's all excited to see me. Guys, this is teaching. This is inspiring. And how we do that so more people will want to go into this field, it behooves us to do this right. Because otherwise, the most important job in the world, which I think teaching is the one that's going to have the least amount of takers. We have AP classes in shared co-locations. We now have 12 co-located campuses that we have focused on. And one of them, for example, Lehman High School campus was one of the schools that was not doing well by any stretch of the imagination, had, I think, 3 AP courses. Starting in September, I think they will have 13 AP courses, and they will be shared across the campuses. So if I'm in this school, I can now take a course in this school. The days of silos, where every school stands alone and competes with the school next to them, gone forever. Your success depends on how well you work together. We give you something for it. We fix your lobby. We give you maybe an extra body to help coordinate all this stuff. But it's crucial. And on that campus right now, Lehman College is now working with all the high schools on that campus to make sure that they have an easier road to get to college. The Colocated also means something for those of you who know high schools. Believe it or not, they're on the same bell schedule. It's a requirement of my coming to give you presents. You want to be on a co-located campus, you want extra things, you've got to agree above and beyond, you will have one bell schedule. So kids can take courses in each other's classes in each other's schools. And also we have given them more access to after-school programs, also shared across all campuses. I was in Evander Child High School, and I was talking to all the principals before we really helped them figure out how to coordinate all this. And I have someone who goes and helps people do this. And one principal said, well, I don't have enough money for after-school programs. I have a guitar program. It only has 4 children. One of the other principals said, oh, really? I have a guitar program. I have 5 kids. I'm looking at them. You're in the same building, guys. Can't you have one guitar program? And then you'll have more money for something else? So how do we get people to dialogue together? How do we get people to talk to each other? We have a program called Learning Partners. And Learning Partners is how do you take schools that are doing cutting-edge stuff. We have a school that is doing some phenomenal work around an elective school hour day. It's so complicated, I don't even want to go into it, but it's innovative, it's different. We have other schools who say, well, Carmen, why can't I? So we say, apply to be a learning partner, apply to be pros, break some of the rules as long as student success is your end goal. Learning partners are principals who make a little bit more money, so does their AP, and so do 2 or 3 teacher leaders in that building. And we invite other schools to come and partake. As a result of this, some phenomenal things have started to happen. Learning partners mean share what you do best. Don't keep it to yourself so you'll be the only one who can say, well, in this school, when you do your open houses, in this school, well, if you keep it to yourself, in my opinion, you're not such a phenomenal leader. The people who give things away so it proves that they can be replicated are really important. It also energizes your teachers if they have to show off. As a building principal, I had easily 800 visitors a year. And my teachers eventually would say, oh, but Carmen, another? Yes, because you know what? It's like, I call it the mother-in-law syndrome. If you're going to have visitors, you clean up, you fix, you decorate. If you as a principal say do this, oh, I'm going to call my union, I'm not supposed to do this. But if you clean up for your mother-in-law, that's what you do. And to me, having teachers have an audience also makes them much better at what they do. So the Learning Partners showcase schools are also places that are doing some remarkable things. And when someone says to me, well, I can't do that, or I don't know how to, I said, oh, I'll tell you an example. Bushwick, I think it's 367 in Bushwick. I went to see the most phenomenal STEM program. Every first grader can code, almost totally English language learners to school. Every second grader is involved in sustainability projects. All third graders have a master teacher working with them on robotics. By the way, the master teacher wears a lab coat, and they're all fifth graders. And when people say to me, we can't do that, I say, go visit that school. It's a showcase school. So find models of excellence, and for those of you who can, think about sponsoring a school that's a model in what you do best. And that becomes how we expand this, because I am not a big believer in mandates per se, and I think that's really important. I think I want to end by saying, to me, developing the leaders of the future is really one of the major goals I have this year. How we talk about teaching is really important. How you celebrate teachers. I asked our CEC presidents this year to think about it every meeting that they have, to pick 2 or 3 teachers to celebrate. I now have a teacher advisory council chosen from the Big Apple winners who actually helped me develop a lot of plans. Last year, their goal was how do we do more recruitment of teachers? And I'm proud to say, for the first time ever, our vacancy rate going into September is the lowest it's ever been. Our master highly effective teachers in the Bronx are the highest it's ever been, over 200 something. And we now know that if we inspire people, we get people to do way beyond their own capabilities. So how do we develop these teachers? How do you celebrate them? How do you make sure that more men come into teaching? How do you make sure that diversity is demonstrated by the people standing in front of you? And I went to visit the Men I Teach end-of-year summer program, and here you have men from Cornell, Morehouse, you name it, and they're majoring in engineering, and I keep saying to them, well, try, I'm using the Teach for America, try 3 or 4 years. You'll fall in love with teaching, because this notion that if you're too smart, you don't teach really, really bothers me. And we have to say, if you're really, really smart, why don't you teach? We've got to change that, and whatever field you're in, you can make that difference happen. So let me tell you one other group that I'm really prioritizing, and any help you can give us on this. We're really focusing on our students in temporary housing and homeless kids. And I went to do one of their graduations this year. There was a group that was graduating, about 40 students, graduating from temporary housing, going on to sleepaway colleges. And they were wonderful, and they were talking, and I said, well, if you could give me any advice, what would it be? And some of them were there with their parents, and one of the mothers said, her child is going to Mohawk University, another one was going to Ithaca College. I said, oh, wow, you're really going to coal country. She said, none of us know where they're going. We haven't even been able to have enough money to go visit the colleges. So we decided to have what I call pop-up college shower. And a pop-up college shower, somebody said to me, but this can't be your job, Chancellor. Everything's my job. There's nothing that's not my job. So we asked, actually just employees, we didn't go for funding, but we may in the future, employees to contribute to a shower, a pop-up shower, where we asked Bed Bath & Beyond's list of going to college, and we put together, we collected about $6,000 in 3 days because people really, really want to help. And then we had a shower with all the materials they would need for college. Sheets, radios, fun things, not all essentials, and we invited them to come and pick what they wanted. And we got them these big bags to take away. And then I get a call, when you do something, you'll have to do more. So then I got a call. Well, those are the ones who went to college. Well, we have a lot of kids in temporary housing who are going to CUNY or going to stay here in the city. So now we have another one, I think, next week for an additional 50 kids, and this time City Hall staffers decided they wanted to chip in. And now it's really, really important, because getting to college, believe it or not, is not as hard as staying in college. So not only did we give them materials, but we've asked everyone to pick one student's name out of a hat and write them letters. And we're thinking of things like paying one trip home and then one trip for parents to go visit them, because that's an essential part of all this. So my next goal is also to work more deeply with incarcerated youth and to get care packages for them as they walk out. I have visited Rikers, as has the commissioner, several times this year. And to me, this is something we have to do a hell of a lot better in New York City and beyond. So to me, it's really important that when these kids walk out, they have a package of what they need immediately. And that package will say, not this is because you need a suit or you need this. someone cares about you, and this is the first day of the rest of your lives. So I'm thrilled to be a teacher. I still consider myself a teacher. I'm thrilled to be an educator because I know that in this job, I can make a difference in kids' lives. And I hope all of you who are here today take back that message and figure out how you're going to make a difference in a child's life. And if you need any opinions, feel free to let me know. I am full of them. Thank you so much.